Welcome back to Signal 2030, where we explore the scientific breakthroughs that are shaping our future.
Welcome back.
What if the most powerful boost you could give your brain and, well, your whole body wasn't some new supplement or a super complex workout routine, but actually just what happens when you close your eyes each night? Last time we started digging into sleep's fundamental role. Today we're zooming right in on the incredible active processes happening inside you while you're asleep, the science that directly impacts your brain, your memory, and yeah, your overall physical health.
It's absolutely true. I mean, think about it. Sleep isn't just something we do. It's fundamental, a requirement for virtually all life on Earth, from those tiny microscopic worms like 500 billion years ago to ancient jellyfish, almost a billion years old, right up to, well, colossal whales. This universal need, even though it makes creatures vulnerable, really speaks volumes about its indispensable nature. It kind of suggests that sleep might have been the original state of being, from which wakefulness later emerged. And this deep evolutionary history, it explains why messing with our sleep leads to such, well, widespread negative effects.
Wow, that puts a whole new spin on it. Okay, so for this part of our exploration, our mission is really to pull out the most important, maybe surprising insights from the latest primary research. We're looking at those intricate connections between sleep, your brain, and your overall health span, the period of your life spent in good health. We're going to explore sleep on a neurobiological level, an evolutionary one, even molecular, revealing just how incredibly active and crucial this nightly process truly is for you. So let's start by challenging that common idea that sleep is just one uniform state where your brain kind of switches off. In reality, it's much more dynamic, right? An intricately choreographed process.
Absolutely. Sleep isn't just off, not at all. It's a carefully structured journey through distinct stages. You've got non-rapid eye movement, NREM, and rapid eye movement, REM, sleep. And NREM itself has 3 stages. N1 is that really light sleep, just a few minutes maybe, where you might feel like you're just drifting off.
Right, that twilight zone.
Exactly. Then N2 makes up almost half of your total sleeping time. And then there's N3. That's the one often called slow wave sleep or just deep sleep.
And N3 sounds like where the real heavy lifting happens. Is that where the brain does its most vital work?
Precisely. N3 is characterized by this high amplitude, low frequency brain activity. On a brain scan, an EEG, it shows up as big, slow delta waves. This highly synchronized activity is crucial for waking up feeling truly refreshed, and it's where much of your body's physical repair happens, plus growth hormone secretion. Then you've got REM sleep, which is, well, it's truly a paradoxical state. Your brain activity actually looks a lot like being wide awake.
Weird.
Yeah, but your voluntary muscles go almost completely limp. We think this is basically your body's way of preventing you from physically acting out your dreams.
Makes sense.
During REM, brain signals are fast and desynchronized, and you get those characteristic rapid eye movements. A typical sleep cycle, moving through NREM stages into REM, initially lasts about 70 to 100 minutes. Later cycles stretch out a bit, maybe 90 to 120 minutes, repeating all night long.
Okay, so what actually regulates these cycles? How does the brain create this precise orchestration?
Well, it's a really delicate dance between 2 primary biological processes. First, there's your homeostatic sleep drive. You can think of it as process S. This drive just intensifies the longer you're awake, makes you feel increasingly sleepy, and then it diminishes once you fall asleep, like a built-in sleep pressure gauge, sort of.
Okay, so pressure builds up the longer you're awake.
Exactly. And complementing this is your circadian rhythm, or process C. That's your internal master clock. It's located in a tiny part of your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the SCN, in the hypothalamus. The SCN basically orchestrates your body's 24-hour sleep-wake cycle. It promotes wakefulness during the day and helps you sleep at night. It gets direct light signals from your eyes, which is key for setting its time.
Exactly, just like we talked about in part 1. Okay, now let's shift gears a bit and go microscopic. Let's talk about something truly fascinating happening in your brain during sleep. Sleep spindles. What exactly are they?
Right, sleep spindles, they're these distinctive patterns you see on an EEG, the brain activity measure. They look like bursts of activity, waxing and waning rhythms, oscillating between about 7 and 14 cycles per second. They happen mostly during NREM sleep, especially N2 sleep, and typically last for just about a second or so. They're generated mainly in your thalamus, that central relay station in your brain, and then they propagate out to your cerebral cortex, the outer layer. In humans, we can actually distinguish between faster spindles, maybe 13, 15 hertz, mostly in the central and parietal parts of the brain, and slower ones, around 9 to 12 hertz, more in the prefrontal areas.
And what's their specific job? What's their crucial role, especially in memory?
Well, they're increasingly recognized as being really instrumental in strengthening and stabilizing memories you formed while you were awake. At the cellular level, spindles are associated with heightened activity in the dendrites, those branching parts of brain cells, and elevated intracellular calcium levels. This creates a highly favorable environment for synaptic plasticity.
Synaptic plasticity, strengthening connections.
Exactly. The fundamental biological basis of memory, where connections between brain cells are strengthened or weakened. Spindles can actually induce long-term potentiation, or LTP, making those memory pathways more robust. They also seem to promote a unique kind of processing within the dendrites themselves, helping to solidify new learning in specific ways. And critically, spindles seem to create a protected processing window. During a spindle burst, your brain's thalamocortical networks become less responsive to external sensory inputs.
Like putting up a do not disturb sign.
That's a great way to put it. It prevents interference and allows for internal memory processing and consolidation without distraction from the outside world. They also work together in concert with other major NRM oscillations, like hippocampal sharp wave ripples and neocortical slow waves, both critical for learning and memory. This coordinated mechanism seems to help transfer and consolidate your hippocampus-dependent declarative memories, that's your memories for facts and events, into more stable, long-term storage within your neocortex. So the real takeaway here is your brain isn't just passively filing things away at night. It's actively rewiring and solidifying your most important memories. It's like an ultra-efficient, protected nightly study session.
That's absolutely incredible. Okay, do these fascinating brain rhythms change as we go through life? And what might that mean for our cognitive abilities as we age?
They absolutely do. Sleep spindles undergo really significant dynamic changes across our lifespan, and yeah, these changes consistently correlate with cognitive aptitude, learning, and memory. In infants' developing brains, for example, we see early brainwave patterns called delta brushes. These are thought to be involved in sensory feedback and mapping out sensory and motor areas before mature spindles appear. Then, during childhood and adolescence, mature sleep spindles emerge. They gradually increase in number and duration, and their pattern shifts across the brain. Now, in normal aging, adults typically experience more fragmented sleep overall, less REM, less deep, slow-wave sleep, and a noticeable decrease in sleep spindle density.
A decrease. Where?
It seems most pronounced in the frontal and occipital regions, the back parts of the brain. And the strength of faster spindles dramatically declines with age. And crucially, studies now consistently show a correlation between having well-preserved spindles and maintaining cognitive function, especially in things like motor learning and remembering specific events, episodic memory. There's even evidence that a progressive decrease in the consistency of how these spindle waves travel across the brain reliably predicts age-related memory decline.
Wow, a direct link.
A very strong link. And beyond normal aging, in neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, we see even further decreases in spindle density. Sometimes in severe cases, they're almost completely lost. Conversely, though, having a greater intensity and number of fast spindles has actually been correlated with better episodic memory in Alzheimer's patients, suggesting they might play a protective role. So yeah, the dynamic nature of sleep spindles really positions them as a sensitive, non-invasive indicator of brain health, like an electrical signature. Their direct correlation with cognitive development, decline in aging, and even neurological disorders suggests that monitoring spindle parameters over time could offer a valuable tool. Maybe for early detection of cognitive vulnerabilities or disease progression, potentially even before clear symptoms appear.
Like an early warning system built into our sleep.
Potentially, yes. And this opens exciting avenues for future targeted interventions. Things like pharmacological treatments or even brain stimulation techniques aimed at modulating spindle activity to perhaps preserve cognitive function as we age.
That sounds incredibly promising. Okay, shifting from the microscopic spindles to something equally critical, but maybe on a larger scale. Let's talk about the brain's own sophisticated nightly detox system, the glymphatic system. What is it, and why is it so important?
Right, the glymphatic system. It's a relatively recently discovered waste removal system within the brain. You can think of it as the brain's unique plumbing, kind of analogous to the lymphatic system that serves the rest of your body. Its main job is maintaining brain homeostasis, keeping things balanced, by facilitating the circulation of cerebrospinal fluid, or CSF, through the brain. It uses these specialized pathways that surround blood vessels. Basically, CSF enters the brain along the spaces around arteries, mixes with the interstitial fluid, the fluid surrounding brain cells, and then drains out along the spaces around veins, eventually reaching the peripheral lymphatic system.
And this flow clears out
Well, this CSF flow is absolutely crucial for clearing out metabolic waste products, toxins, and those problematic aberrant proteins like amyloid beta.
The Alzheimer's proteins.
The very same ones. They build up during wakefulness, and this system helps flush them out. Its efficiency really depends on aquaporin 4, or AQP4. These are specialized water channel proteins on astrocytes, those star-shaped support cells in the brain. These channels optimize the fluid flow.
Okay, so brain drainage system. What's the connection between this crucial system and sleep itself?
This is where it gets really fascinating. Lymphatic activity is significantly enhanced during sleep, and notably inhibited when you're awake.
Much more active during sleep.
Much more. Studies, initially in mice, showed that during sleep, the brain's interstitial space, that space between the brain cells, actually increases in volume by over 60% compared to the awake state. This expansion dramatically reduces resistance to CSF flow. It essentially opens up the floodgates for waste removal.
Wow, 60% more space.
It seems to be inversely coupled with the volume of astrocytes. During wakefulness, these support cells appear to swell, compacting the extracellular space. But during sleep, they seem to shrink, increasing the available space for fluid movement. And norepinephrine, that major neurotransmitter associated with arousal and wakefulness, it seems to impede lymphatic function during waking, likely by causing cell swelling and maybe even inhibiting CSF production.
So basically, our brains need a good power wash every night, and if we skip it or get fragmented, poor quality sleep, it's like leaving the dirty dishes piling up in the sink, eventually leading to bigger problems.
That's a great analogy. And it's pretty accurate. The efficiency of the lymphatic system, unfortunately, declines with age. And this age-related impairment leads directly to the accumulation of those neurotoxic substances we mentioned, amyloid beta and tau, the hallmarks of Alzheimer's disease. Impaired lymphatic clearance has been directly associated with the development and progression of Alzheimer's pathology and memory deficits in research models, and that extracellular space cleared by the lymphatic system. It also serves as the pathway for the spread of tauopathy, the abnormal tau protein, from neuron to neuron in Alzheimer's. So reduced clearance might actually accelerate disease progression.
So it's not just about accumulation, but spread too.
Exactly. Even having those AQP4 water channels expressed improperly on the astrocytes is linked to impaired lymphatic inflow and reduced tau clearance.
Interesting.
There's now a non-invasive imaging biomarker called the DTI-ALPS index. It's kind of like a specialized brain drainage scan for assessing lymphatic function. And studies show that a decline in this ALPS index with age correlates with atrophy or shrinking of core memory-related brain structures, like the entorhinal cortex, and also with measurable memory decline. It strongly suggests lymphatic dysfunction plays a key role in age-related cognitive decline.
A very direct link then. So do common sleep disorders, things like insomnia, also show signs of this lymphatic dysfunction?
Yes, unfortunately they do. Lymphatic dysfunction has been observed in sleep disorders, particularly insomnia, where it's associated with impaired lymphatic circulation. Studies show the average ALPS index is significantly lower in insomnia patients compared to healthy controls.
Lower drainage efficiency.
Right. And crucially, the ALPS index shows significant correlations with specific sleep stages. It's positively correlated with the proportion of REM sleep and negatively correlated with the proportion of that very light N1 stage sleep. This implies that having less REM sleep and more of that light N1 sleep, which are characteristics of poor sleep quality and disrupted sleep architecture often seen in insomnia, are directly linked to worse whole brain lymphatic circulation.
So it's not just if you sleep, but how well you sleep. The quality and architecture matter for this cleaning process.
Absolutely. Getting sufficient deep sleep and REM sleep appears to be vital for optimal brain waste clearance. Fragmented sleep or reduced deep sleep, common in aging, can be particularly detrimental. And we have direct human evidence too. A randomized crossover study showed that levels of amyloid beta and tau in the cerebrospinal fluid tended to be consistently lower after a night of normal sleep compared to a night of sleep deprivation. Experimental sleep deprivation has actually been shown to inhibit this overnight reduction in amyloid beta, leading to increased concentrations in the morning.
Wow, okay.
So to sort of bring this all together, the data strongly links lymphatic decline to normal aging, to the accumulation of Alzheimer's disease biomarkers, and to observable cognitive deficits. And crucially, it also connects lymphatic impairment directly to insomnia and disrupted sleep architecture. This really suggests that lymphatic dysfunction serves as a central mediating pathway through which the processes of aging and poor sleep converge to increase the risk and progression of neurodegenerative diseases.
That's huge. It reframes the connection.
It really does. And this understanding positions lymphatic system modulation as a potentially very promising therapeutic target for mitigating age-related memory decline, maybe even preventing dementia. Imagine interventions that enhance this brain power wash, perhaps through optimizing sleep itself, or maybe targeting those AQP4 channels to offer a novel strategy for promoting brain health and extending our cognitive health span.
That's a powerful and incredibly practical insight. Okay, let's broaden our discussion now from the brain specifically to the entire body. Because sleep affects far more than just our minds, right? What's the widespread systemic impact of chronic sleep restriction?
Oh, it's truly pervasive. I mean, decades of epidemiological and experimental data consistently link short sleep duration with an increased risk of adverse cardiometabolic conditions, neurodegeneration, and accelerated immune aging.
Hmm.
Even modest sleep restriction like sleeping only 6 hours a night for just 8 consecutive days can significantly impair metabolic function. It really acts as a systemic stressor.
That's quite a list of biological consequences. Let's really zero in on one area that affects millions. How does chronic sleep restriction impact our heart health and metabolism? Can we unpack the cardiometabolic side first?
Sure. For cardiometabolic health, chronic sleep restriction impairs your body's ability to handle glucose and decreases insulin sensitivity. This prompts an abnormal increase in pancreatic insulin secretion to try and compensate. If your pancreas can't keep up long term, this can eventually progress to type 2 diabetes. And it happens fast. Even a single night of total sleep loss can rapidly induce altered insulin resistance.
Just one night, wow.
Yes. It also messes with your counter-regulatory hormones, like increasing catecholamines. Those are stress hormones that can elevate blood sugar. While studies on leptin, your satiety hormone, are a bit mixed. Some do indicate a decrease in its levels after sleep deprivation. And adiponectin, an important anti-inflammatory hormone produced by fat cells, has also shown reductions. Short sleep duration is also associated with decreased energy expenditure, heightened hunger and appetite, and often, a preference for high-carbohydrate foods. Sweets, salty snacks.
The late night cravings.
Exactly. Your blood pressure can go up. The function of your endothelial cells, those cells lining your blood vessels, which are a key predictor of cardiovascular disease risk, can be impaired. The stress response system, the HPA axis we mentioned earlier, gets activated, leading to things like elevated evening cortisol levels, which is linked to insulin resistance. And these advanced metabolomic studies, they reveal consistent, unhealthy changes in specific types of fats, lipids in the blood, many linked to increased risk of diabetes and cardiovascular disease. Even things like amylase activity, an enzyme involved in digestion, have been observed to increase with sleep deprivation.
Wow, okay, so it's disrupting everything from blood sugar control and hormone balance to blood pressure and even our food choices. Now, what about the impact on specific biomarkers related to neurodegeneration? We touched on amyloid beta with the glymphatic system.
Right. For neurodegeneration biomarkers, we see some concerning shifts beyond just accumulation. Plasma concentrations of amyloid beta, specifically alpha beta 40 and alpha beta 42, are actually reduced after a single night of acute sleep deprivation.
Reduced? That sounds counterintuitive.
It does, but the thinking is it might reflect impaired clearance or altered production processing dynamics. In individuals with normal sleep, the overnight changes in amyloid beta correlated with meningeal lymphatic clearance capacity, part of that drainage system, but this relationship was disrupted by sleep deprivation. Phosphorylated tau peptide 181, p-tau 181, a key Alzheimer's marker. While overall levels might not change drastically acutely, there's an overnight increase observed in plasma during sleep deprivation. And this strongly correlates with impaired lymphatic function that reduces brain cleaning. And perhaps most intriguingly, as we mentioned, a single night of sustained wakefulness significantly elevates circulating morning levels of two specific microRNAs, miR-127-3P and miR-142-3P. Both of these are implicated in neurodegenerative disease processes. It points to a direct molecular link between losing sleep and neurodegeneration pathways being activated.
That's huge, finding a direct molecular link. Incredible. Okay, finally, let's delve into immune aging. How does sleep, or the profound lack of it, affect our body's defenses?
Yeah, the immune system is heavily influenced. Optimal sleep plays an absolute crucial role in enhancing your immune defense. It's particularly important for initiating effective adaptive immune responses, the targeted ones, and for forming long-lasting immunological memory. You know how vaccines work. This process is especially linked to deep, slow-wave sleep and a specific pro-inflammatory hormonal environment during sleep. High growth hormone and prolactin, low cortisol and catecholamines. This actually facilitates the movement of key immune cells, T cells, to your lymph nodes, where they can effectively fight infections or respond to vaccines.
So sleep actively helps the immune system organize itself?
Precisely. Now, in stark contrast, chronic sleep restriction, or prolonged sleep loss, leads to a general enhancement of markers for inflammatory activity. It creates a state often described as chronic low-grade systemic inflammation. Specific inflammatory markers like IL-6 and C-reactive protein, or CRP, are consistently elevated with sleep disturbances. Reduced sleep duration is also associated with elevated TNF-L levels. Sleep deprivation can alter your immune cell patterns, too. Some studies show increased neutrophils, leukocytes, monocytes, more general inflammatory cells, alongside decreased natural killer, or NK, cell counts and activity. NK cells are important for fighting viruses and cancer cells.
So fewer specialized defenders.
Potentially, yes. And this leads to immunodeficiency. Things like a diminished immune response to vaccination and increased susceptibility to common illnesses like the cold. Chronic short sleep also tends to elevate stress hormones like cortisol, which further suppresses immunity. But it's important to make a key distinction here. Not all inflammation is bad. Optimal sleep, particularly deep sleep, seems to orchestrate a controlled, beneficial inflammatory response that's crucial for adaptive immunity. Chronic sleep restriction, on the other hand, induces a dysregulated pathological inflammatory state that's broadly detrimental.
Okay, that's a critical difference. Beneficial versus pathological inflammation.
So the data, when you look at it all together, clearly demonstrates that chronic sleep restriction doesn't just affect one isolated system. It triggers this cascade of dysregulation across your cardiometabolic, neurodegenerative, and immune pathways. It really suggests that chronic sleep deprivation acts as a pervasive systemic stressor. It disrupts interconnected homeostatic mechanisms, not just isolated physiological pathways. The health consequences are multifaceted and synergistic. They feed into each other. Therefore, interventions aimed at improving sleep health really should strive for a holistic improvement across these interconnected biomarker profiles. It just reinforces sleep's role as a fundamental determinant of your health span, maintaining that delicate balance of multiple physiological systems.
That's a truly comprehensive picture. Okay, bringing all these threads together now, the overwhelming evidence shows sleep is far, far more than just a passive state. It's an active, multifunctional process essential for maintaining systemic homeostasis and promoting your overall health span.
It's exactly right. Sleep actively consolidates your memories through these intricate processes involving sleep spindles. It facilitates that crucial brain waste clearance via the lymphatic system, preventing neurotoxic protein accumulation. These functions directly impact your risk of neurodegeneration and your cognitive function day to day. Poor sleep is consistently linked to impaired judgment, reduced attention span, and, yes, an increased long-term risk of dementia. And beyond the brain, adequate sleep is critical for your cardiometabolic health, influencing glucose metabolism, insulin sensitivity, appetite hormones, blood pressure. Chronic sleep restriction profoundly disrupts these processes, increasing your risk of obesity, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease. And in the realm of immune function, sleep orchestrates robust immune responses, promoting that beneficial, transient inflammatory state essential for adaptive immunity and immunological memory. Conversely, chronic sleep loss leads to detrimental low-grade systemic inflammation and immunodeficiency. What's crucial to understand, I think, is that these various physiological domains aren't isolated. They talk to each other. Chronic inflammation, for instance, contributes to both cardiometabolic disease and neurodegeneration. Stress responses induced by sleep loss impact both metabolic and immune functions. This intricate web of interactions really underscores sleep as a central pillar of overall health span, a master regulator of systemic homeostasis.
So, from memory to immunity, from mood to metabolism, sleep touches nearly every system in the body. But knowing that sleep is essential is only the beginning. Next, we'll explore how to measure it, how to improve it, and what the future of sleep science might mean for all of us.
Indeed. We hope you'll join us for the final part of this series, and until then, sleep well.
Bye for now.